Dillan Wightman is the General Sales Manager at Listowel Chrysler and Listowel Ford in Southern Ontario and a passionate car enthusiast. His stores and team are very well known in the area and cater mostly to rural buyers. Listen in as we dive deep into what it's like to run rural stores, as well as his upbringing in the automotive space. All right, Dillan, well, thanks for coming on to the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. I mean, we've known each other for many years. But for those who don't know who the one and only Dillan Wightman is, maybe tell everybody your story from before automotive and where you are today.
Yeah, so my name is Dillan Wightman. I'm General Sales Manager of Listowel Ford and Listowel Chrysler, both dealers located in Listowel, Ontario. Been working with this group now for almost 9 years, and I've grown up around the automotive world. So since I was a little guy, I've always been in and out of dealerships and had a lot of mentors and idols throughout the years, and that's what's driven me to follow into the automotive industry. So following my old man's footsteps, and it's just since I was a kid what I always wanted to do.
And you work with your dad now, don't you?
I do, yeah. He's our service manager at Listowel Chrysler. He started with us in August of 2023, so we've had the pleasure of working together now for just over a year. Growing up, I've had jobs working with him as well, doing detailing and whatnot.
It's funny, you can slip over to the Ford store once you guys are butting heads a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. It helps keep the distance when things get a little hot, you could say. So
that's funny. I can't imagine it being too hot and too much tension between you guys. So.
No, it's actually it was one of the things when he came on that was a huge topic of conversation between Bill and Brent and how we would work together. We both understand business and there's a job, and that's one thing I think Kim and I both have a lot of respect for each other. In the aspect of is we may have a disagreement at work, but at the end of the day, we're still family and work doesn't get in the way of that.
That's amazing. You see a lot of family-run dealerships in the automotive world, and powerful to be able to do that. And obviously you're living that experience in some light, so it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Your history in dealerships, was it always with these two brands, or were there others involved?
There were others involved. So throughout my childhood, my dad worked at a GM store in Kitchener called Stellantis Motors. I grew up in that place, in and around it. Weekends washing cars. Like I said, when I was a kid, I knew I was going to end up in a dealership. I just didn't know where, doing what. And that is kind of where it all kickstarted for me. Career-wise, throughout high school, I detailed vehicles at Guelph Hyundai. Also did a little bit of marketing with them digitally through their online platforms, trying to grow that a little bit. And then, I moved to Alberta. I worked at a dealership there while doing my Ram Rodeo stuff, and then moved back home here in 2015 or 16. I think it was end of 2015 I came home, and that was when I started in Listowel here. So
that's one thing that I love about the auto space is everybody I've talked to seems to have moved all over the place. Our last guest moved all across Canada and now the US, and like yourself, moving across the country. It's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, it opens up different avenues. You learn different things and different markets and different opportunities.
So when you were getting into the space, you knew that you always wanted to be in the car dealer world. Did you have a goal of being a GSM or even maybe a GM, if you're allowed to say that, if that's a secret?
Yeah, no, it's no secret. When I was a kid, all of my friends, their family, everyone knew something around cars was what I was going to do. Ultimately, my goal one day is to have my own store or stores, is my ultimate goal, always has been. It's been no secret here. Brent and Bill, that's why they've kind of put the trust into me and have allowed me to develop and grow within our group here too. So it's, that's my ultimate goal. Right now, I'm focused on what I'm doing and how I can develop and be better at what I'm currently doing. And with that, other opportunities come. We're working with Bill and Brent, obviously. Bill's not going to do this for the rest of his life. He's getting at a stage in his life where he is probably going to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's where a new opportunity opens up. And if I'm the right guy for the job at that point, then that's my next goal. So,
Very exciting. I didn't know that about you. I'm very happy that I asked that question. That's very exciting.
yeah. So it's not been a secret in any of my friends or family that I'm really close with, and definitely haven't held back in letting Bill and Brendan know my goals too. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, why would you, right? That's
Well,
just leaves more doors open for you.
they've been great at progressing my career. I've been lucky to work with this company to be able to advance and learn and have the opportunity to do it. The biggest thing is uh, having someone to put the trust into you to be able to do the job and step up when they need you to do it.
I think that's a good segue into my question here of when you went from sales to GSM, what did those steps look like? What are the learning lessons that you had to overcome? Was there anything that really slapped you in the face of like, wow, this is a lot to learn? I'm sure there's a lot, but
Yeah. There's definitely a lot. The biggest thing I always said early on in the transition was I had to separate the salesperson in me and recognize that I was the sales manager. The salesperson in me always wanted to just go out and you sell, sell, sell. And as the manager, you want to do that as well. But there's a difference between earning deals and buying deals. And that was where the salesperson wants to buy the deal. The sales manager wants to earn the deal. And that was one of the harder transitions I found. Now I've been pretty well 5 years in a sales management role, and I would say I don't look back on it at that at all. But even in some of the staff we have here coming into sales management roles, or getting their feet wet in a little bit of the leadership role, that's one of the things I always say is you just got to be able to separate the salesperson mentality from the sales manager mentality. And I know it sounds maybe a little silly, but the difference is there. And maybe get a little more creative and making a deal work. And as far as people go, I felt I had a pretty hands-on approach with our staff and was always helping people even as a salesperson. So the management of the people I felt was maybe natural, and the transition there was seamless. Inventory, product knowledge, all that sort of thing. That's something I pride myself on as well. It's probably my biggest strength. So getting to utilize that in a sales management role, that was awesome too.
yeah, every time we've spoke, you're super knowledgeable about every single model and trim, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely more passionate about the Mopar product. It's been a learning curve trying to relearn everything with Ford here. So it's been fun, but that's Mopar, the Stellantis brand is where my expertise is.
Yeah, I mean, you got the most trim levels and options and the craziest build sheets out of the big three for sure. So
Yep.
you're no stranger to trying to remember things. I want to go back. You just said something really powerful. The mindset of buying a deal and earning a deal. Can we dissect that a little bit?
Yeah, to put it black and white, buying a deal is you're in a negotiation or you're trying to do business with someone and they say you're $5,000 apart and the salesperson wants to jump on it because they want to sell the car and they want to buy the deal. You can buy deals at $500 or $1,000 over. That's not going to hurt anybody or anything. But if you're buying deals at $5,000 or $10,000, which is what salespeople sometimes want to do because they want the credit, they want the sale.
Mhm.
That's where I would refer to buying a deal, just doing something that doesn't make sense for progressing the business. At the end of the day, we're here to sell vehicles, turn profitability, and retain customers. And the difference in earning a deal is getting creative, whether it's helping with maintenance on the vehicle for the person for the first year or building value in the store and who I am as the salesperson or whoever the salesperson is and who we are, who we represent, our community, all of that. I think there's more ways to earn someone's business, finding them the right vehicle, not overselling them on something. There's a lot of different ways that you can earn a deal rather than buy a deal. And yeah, sometimes we need to get creative. It's not always price that will reflect someone's purchase, but the people. I had someone, and I'm not going to name who it is, but it's someone that I look up to. They ran a Ford store in Virginia. Couldn't tell you the town, but there's 2 other Ford stores in a 20 or 30-minute vicinity. And he always said they weren't the lowest price, but they had the best people, they had the best process, and people wanted to do business there because they were professional and they did things right. So anyway, earning a deal doesn't always go back to price. It goes back to value building and just making it work.
I think that's really important because, I mean, there's a lot of price shoppers, especially now, or payment shoppers. We'll get to that in a minute, but just trying to build in more value for the customer and not always lowering the price, but seeing what value you can add to the deal. I mean, we do that in marketing all the time. That's a really important thing to do. And I think at the end of the day, it's more beneficial for you and the customer. It's a win-win situation where the customer gets more than they paid for, and it just strengthens the experience.
Yeah, I would agree.
You're in a very rural location, basically my hometown where I grew up most of my life. How do you stick out amongst the other city dealers? Is it the people focus, the people over product as we say, or what are you looking at?
Yeah, so being in the 2 brands, and I know we're probably going to dissect a little bit on that, so I won't get into too much on it, but I find a difference in the 2 brands where Stellantis is very price driven. We're very lucky in town here to have a strong community, I guess I would say, that are very loyal. And that's, again, what we're going to touch on going forward probably is a little bit on relationships. And we build a lot of value in that. So I think that's what helps us retain people in town from going to the city to do deals. We can give them the proper hospitality, the proper deal, the proper vehicle. We can give them everything that they would go to the city for right at home. One of the bigger ones, I would say, not so much about people going out of town, but bringing people from out of town to here. So again, having the right inventory, the right marketing, the right people, right pricing. We do bring a large amount of people in from the Kitchener-Waterloo and London region. And a lot of times when people come in, they expect kind of the hustle and bustle, maybe faster pace and pushiness that they feel from a city dealer. And that's something we get complimented on a lot between the 2 stores when we get people from out of town coming to deal with us that aren't familiar with us, is just how, I don't know that laid back's the right word, because it's obviously not what anyone wants to hear in a high performing environment, but ease and feeling at home and comfortability, that's a big thing for, I think, getting people to come here from out of town, and a lot of people like that. So that's definitely a big part of it for us.
Yeah, I imagine there's a line there of like that you have to balance. Like you can still give this fast experience to people, and when I mean fast, I mean like fast approvals, get them in the office, get them in and out of the store, but also balance it with those human touch points, those conversations, those follow-ups, using the names, like just very personable approach. And I think, yeah, you just do that very well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important for us, like the rural setting here, the people here want to deal with us and enjoy dealing with us. I think we give them a great experience. But yeah, when we can get the other people that maybe generally wouldn't be coming to Listowel for their car buying experience, when they get the feel of how we can handle things, they oftentimes like it. And another thing on that note that brings people here is the good old days of Listowel Car City. So we get a lot of people that still come through on a Saturday, and they're coming from Guelph or London or somewhere, and they say, yeah, back in the 90s or early 2000s, you wanted a car, you came to Listowel. So starting to see that rebrand a little bit's been kind of neat.
That's really cool. I think Listowel needs to bring that back. Our
Yeah.
team was looking through like old commercials the other day of Listowel Car City, and some of the, like I think Chrysler was in there and a couple other dealers, but it was so cool and fascinating to see, like in the 90s, these commercials, right, of GMs up on their signs. Definitely safety, like HR would freak out. But yeah, very cool. I think they need to revive that.
Yeah, it's I always get a kick out of it when we hear it. It'd be I think the dealers here are all close enough to like working between each other that it's definitely something that could get rebranded and have a little bit of fun with. So
I agree, 100%. Is that what keeps you in the car business? Is the people?
a lot of things. The biggest one I would say is my passion for automobiles. It's always been, I keep saying since I was a kid. Since I was a kid, I've loved cars. I've been a gearhead. That's the biggest thing for me is I love what I do. I love what I work with. The people are great. That's just an added bonus that I get to deal with great people and deal with what I love on a daily basis. So the people make it easier most days, some days not so much, but yeah, it's just the passion for what we can offer and just love everything to do with vehicles.
I love it. It's a win-win for you. On your day-to-day, Dylan, what are you looking at to make sure that your side of the business is running smoothly? What are some KPIs that you focus on?
There's a few things lately with business not being as sporadic, I guess, as it was throughout the last 4 or 5 years. One of the biggest things I like to measure are our leads, what we're doing with them. Not so much just internet leads, but our walk-in traffic, phone ups, and just seeing conversion on how we're handling things. It helps us understand for internet leads, for example, if we have sales rep A and we've sent them 45 leads this month and they haven't sold a vehicle, we got to look at what can we do to help that person to at least convert these leads into either appointments or sales. That's one of the biggest ones that I didn't really understand before I got into the sales management end, but was how important traffic logging is and just keeping track of what we're doing with that. Another big one that we've been watching is for pre-owned inventory. Coming out of COVID on the tail end, there were some issues with aging inventory. So just keeping an eye on our aged inventory and making sure we're restocking our pre-owned stuff with sellable units with lower days supply that we aren't hopefully going to be having to find a way out of in 60 or 90 days. Hopefully we're selling them and turning them quickly. Those are two of the more important ones that I would say we've focused on is leads, what we're doing with them, and inventory and making sure we turn it so that we don't sit on stuff and price ourselves out of the market, ultimately losing money by the time you hold on to stuff for too long.
For sure. I mean, on that subject, I think more so in the States, I feel like a lot of Canadian Stellantis dealers are actually doing very well that I've spoke to. But is the Dodge store, are you guys focusing a lot more on used vehicles right now?
Yeah.
Is that kind of your playbook?
100%. Yeah, it's I mean, at the end of the day, we're a new car dealer, so we need to hold our end of the bargain there. But talk on days supply and inventory levels, Stellantis, it's no secret that Stellantis is overloaded, you could say, right now with inventory. I think that with that, there's a lot of opportunity for them to open up the floodgates and in some marketing come out with something pretty impactful, I guess you could say. I would say ball's in their court to kind of make the change because we do have the inventory to make a big splash. But yeah, that being said, used and fixed operations are going to be crucial, not just for our Stellantis dealer, but every Stellantis dealer at this time anyway. So
are you seeing the same thing with Ford as much? Your used operations or
no, so used is important in any dealership, so I'm not taking away from that. Used is a focus here. It's been a goal of our stores for this year is to improve our used retail number and increase from where we've been at the last couple of years, which we're on pace to do right now, which is good. But Ford, it's not as much as a necessity as it is as Stellantis. It's still a focus and a pinpoint for us. Is just not as necessary here. Our new volumes at Ford have been stronger. Ford's gotten creative, I guess, with their marketing and bringing employee pricing back for August and September, first time in a long time. It's generated a lot of business for us. Strange to see how two brands can be so different, offering very similar products. Ford, we're finally starting to get some new inventory too. We've kind of been struggling in the sense of having maybe 10 or 15 trucks, and someone comes in, they want to buy a truck, you don't have it. The next dealer doesn't want to trade it to you because they don't have a lot of them, or you don't have a similar one to provide back to them. Yeah, so we're loaded up on inventory at Ford as well, but it's definitely turning quicker.
So these shoppers that come in, are they price shopping or are they payment shopping? What are you seeing the trend?
I would say it varies by their purchase motive. If you're a cash buyer, you're coming in obviously as a purchase price. The finance and lease buyers are payment driven and very payment driven right now. Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes people come in with like a cash budget in mind, but then are going over payments. So that's something we always try and dissect is what's your payment budget versus your, like, some people come in and they might think that their budget's $60,000, but they want a payment of this and it's not achievable. So that's where we need to dissect that a little bit and point them in the right direction. But yeah, it depends on their purchase motive, but payment is, people have been very sticky on their payments and their budgets when we are quoting finance and lease. There doesn't seem to be a lot of extra room to, like, if you're $5 over budget. In the past, people would be like, it's $5. Well, we can make that work. Right now, like, it seems like people are budgeting like to the penny almost of what they can spend. Things are definitely tighter for people.
I guess that's where your creative mind will have to think differently on earning the sale and trying to provide value to that customer.
Yeah, there's that it's been more prevalent in the last, well, I was going to say 6 months, but definitely the last year. Is when the market started to kind of shift a bit, and earning and getting creative is a huge part of it. Deals aren't coming easy right now, and that's where you just said it, the creative mind, that's where the creative mind can help either revive, save, or earn a deal. So
you're seeing a lot of credit applications being denied now. Is that an increase, or what are we looking at? A lot of co-signing.
So through COVID, I found we had very easy bank approvals. Right now, just like people with payments, banks are tighter on what they're allowing the consumer to purchase or move forward with. I don't know that it's at a rate that would be higher than pre-pandemic, but there's been definitely more credit struggles as of late than I've dealt with in a long time.
Yeah, it seems like a trend. I mean, even in the States too. And like, I mean, back to leases, don't want to jump around a ton here, but a lot of our clients in the US, I mean, like, we are pushing leases like crazy because people are payment shopping there from many different brands: Subaru, Stellantis, Acura. I mean, all across the board. Those lease specials are just getting eaten up, and yeah, they're having some trouble with credit approvals as well sometimes.
Yeah, leasing's huge. Like, we see more of it out of our Ford store, but it's huge for building the dealership's portfolio, customer retention, and you're not getting a customer buried into a vehicle over 8 years. They're going over 2-3 years, and then that's a very short-term commitment with a reasonable payment. So leasing, in my opinion, is a great option for the consumer right now, especially with everyone being a little tighter than budget-wise than they've been in the past. It's just nice to have that short-term commitment that you know you're out of in 2-3 years, and you can keep on going with it. Or
yeah, it's interesting, the whole negative equity, because a lot of people are rolling up those that a dollar amount inside of a new rate for a new vehicle, and they're just kind of kicking this can down the road. But it's very probably difficult, I imagine, as a dealer. You're trying to get creative, you're trying to help people buy, but they just don't have the cash to buy out their old vehicle. Are you dealing with a lot of this? What's kind of your take on it?
Recently, we've had a couple customers actually buy out their leases. For us, it's also a great opportunity to turn that into a new sale, which we've also done a couple of those in the last week or two. The other great thing with the lease is that we're getting nice low kilometer vehicles that we've likely serviced over the last 2 or 3 years. We touched on used inventory, like lease returns are the prime piece for used inventory, as far as condition, mileage, model year, all that stuff. They check all the boxes of what you would want on your lot. So yeah, there's a lot of pros to it, that's for sure.
Yeah, that was one of my questions of your used inventory. Are you seeing older trades come in now because people tend to anyways hold on to their vehicles for longer? But I mean, if you guys are getting a lot of leases and lease returns, that's some fantastic used inventory, like you said.
Yeah, so to touch on that, I guess a little more, our Ford store does a lot more leasing than Stellantis does. So at Ford, we see a little more of that. I think, again, it depends on the purchase motive. So I find if we have a cash or a finance buyer, sometimes cash buyers, you're taking in a 20 or 25-year-old pickup truck to sell them a new one. Finance, sometimes you have people that are in, a 7 or 8-year-old vehicle that they bought 4 years ago and say maybe financed it over 6, 7 years, looking to get out of it. So we've definitely seen more of like the 2015 to 2018 inventory with 150 to 250,000 kilometers on it, which again through COVID was unheard of because people were flipping vehicles like it was their job. But yeah, we definitely at Stellantis have seen more 10-plus-year-old vehicles with 200 or more thousand kilometers come in. That unfortunately doesn't help our used car operation tremendously because those aren't frontline cars that we're going to retail out the front door.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
So at Stellantis or at Listowel Chrysler, we've had to go out and utilize the auction platforms. We've been trying to buy vehicles privately on Facebook Marketplace and Kijiji off of individuals rather than the wholesale platforms. And we're just trying to keep buying things that we can to turn a profit on and run the operation on. Forward, we see more of it come through the door that you would retail. So yeah, that's the outlook on the used, again, between two different brands, but that are so different but similar.
On that topic of two different brands, now that you're working at Ford, you see the differences and maybe similarities between the customers. How are you seeing brand loyalty shift if you are within those two brands?
Yeah, again, a lot of similarities and differences. So I would say right now, brand loyalty with Stellantis is probably as low as I've seen. There's a lot of contributing factors to it. The prices of their vehicles have risen drastically, as everyone else's have, I guess, too. But in the past, we've been able to take customers. I always refer to trucks. Trucks are where most of my clients are and where my main knowledge is. So in reference to trucks, we were able to bring a lot of people to our brand from GM or Ford based on price. And ultimately, they ended up really liking the product we had or have. We make a really great truck, but now I find the pricing is too much the same or not as good even as what GM and Ford are presenting right now. So I would say our brand loyalty's dropped with Stellantis. I think GM and Ford, for example, probably seeing the brand loyalty difference of maybe seeing more Ram buyers come back to them right now. Ford definitely seems to have a strong loyalty following. They've been a top automaker in both Canada and US for countless years. And with that comes brand loyalty. But I think just to narrow it down, the Stellantis, we've seen more people walk, and Ford and GM and some other brands have been able to retain some customers they maybe lost to Price and Ram over the years or other product lines. But yeah, loyalty is not as high as it once was, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's I was thinking about this the other day because as you know, myself and family are very big Stellantis fans, Mopar fans. But I was even thinking of myself, I'm like, why is my brand loyalty shifted in the last couple of years, even on an interest level? And I can't pinpoint what exactly it is. I mean, pricing may have something to do with it in the back of my head, but I don't know if it's just innovation, just new models that other brands are putting out and just experiencing that. But I'm sure the circle will connect at some point, and I'll be back into the seat of a Ram or something.
Yep. That's definitely part of it too, is the model refreshment isn't as rapid in Stellantis world. They're well known for running the same footprint for a long time. Like you take the Durango that we
Yeah.
still are offering, it's based off of a 2011 Durango still. We had the Ram Classic up until well, they're actually bringing it back now for 24, but that's been a imprint for since 2009. So yeah, definitely the sexy factor isn't as much of a wow with our brand as a lot of other brands are rapidly changing every 2-3 years.
Kind of going back to you in the car business here, a couple questions. Is there a moment that stands out to you in the past several years of being in the dealership world where you're like, damn, this is why I love the car business? Is there like a story or something you can give us insight?
I think this goes back mostly to people, that you asked if it's the people that I love about my job. And I've had the pleasure of dealing with a lot of great people over the years, but a few of them, you've probably heard the name Wes Kipfer. He's passed now, but he was a great customer, heavy duty Ram truck driver that we sold multiple trucks to, and product knowledge was one of the biggest things that helped me earn that account, I would say. Yeah, that's definitely one of the customers that stood out to me in my success in sales and building repeat and referral out of that. I really enjoyed that. One of the customers that it was actually the first vehicle I sold at Listowel Chrysler. I became friends with their son over the years. Maintained a great relationship with them. I actually just ordered him a set of running boards for the truck he bought off of me in 2016 on Monday. And then I've got another client. These are the three that really stand out to me. There's another one that every 3 or 6 months, it seems we're flipping him out of a vehicle. And I tell him he's got to go back to the coffee can in the backyard and pull this much cash out. And that's what we're going to make work, and just have an ongoing joke, I guess. But the people, and those are the three that stood out to me. My first sale at Listowel Chrysler, and then those two other clients. Yeah, those are my standouts, I guess. Whether they're exciting or not, those are the ones that I think have shaped out my career in sales a little bit.
I think I know who that individual was who flips a lot of vehicles, and if I'm right, it's exciting.
Yeah,
Absolutely, there's some cool products in there.
it is.
Inventory.
Yeah, they get bored of their vehicles very fast, and yeah, it's we have a lot of fun. So that's what
I
it's all
love
about.
it.
If you don't like what you're doing, you may as well not wake up and get up and do it every day.
Amazing. Well, that was my next question is there a piece of advice or a message you'd like to send somebody following in your footsteps looking to get in the auto world and climb the ranks? What would that be?
I would say the biggest one that people overlook is, we talked about loyalty from a brand, but loyalty from your employer. Too many people get into sales and think that the grass is greener somewhere else, and they flip flop 6 months, 8 months, 1 year. And it's hard to build anything off of that, whether it's customers, trust from your employer. No one's going to give you an opportunity if you bounce around. And that's one thing that we see in this business a lot more frequent. And some of those early customers I just mentioned to you, I remember them asking me, hey, if I deal with you, are you going to be here in 3 years? And I'm a salesman. Of course, I'm going to say yeah. But most salespeople that answer that will say yeah and not have a clue. But tenure and loyalty is huge. You can't just, and that's not to say there's not opportunity somewhere else with a new employer. It's just, if you want to work with the company you start with and climb through opportunity, that's one of the biggest things, is stay loyal. Don't jump around. And then another one that in the role that I'm in now that a lot of people don't understand particularly, and there's still a lot of people around me that don't understand it, is the amount of time that you have to put into the job. So you have to understand what you're getting into. Luckily for me, growing up in the business, I knew what it entailed and what it looked like. I had mentors that I watched do it through my childhood. And yeah, that's another thing is put your nose down, work hard. And I'm 30 years old. This is my time to do it because there's going to be a time where I can't put in the hours I'm doing. Yeah, put in the work with your people, the work with your customers, the inventory, the relationship building. There's a lot to it. So
I love it. Dillan, fantastic conversation. Thank you for your time today. Really appreciate the hour here that you took out of your day. I know you're busy, and I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Great chat, and hope you have a great day.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Dillan.
All right, take care.
I hope you found some value in this conversation, just like I did. And we're excited to continue to bring interviews and conversations with dealership legends, maybe just like yourself. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. I'm your host, Braden Gingrich from Dealer Surge.